Hello everyone, my name is Matthew and I'll be showing you how to make this moving balls shapes in a step-by-step process. The first step is to create a shape of a ball using div style HTML code. And so the border radius of 50% gives you the round shape and the background. You can choose the background, either green or blue or red or any other color that you like to choose. I used green color in this case. Second step is to create a bunch of balls. You just have to know how to create bunch of balls by copying the same code over and over, which gives you a bunch of ball shapes. And you can choose the position by putting how many pixels from the left or how many pixels from the top. And you can choose the different colors by background of brown or orange or sky blue. You can change, and also choosing the width and height, and that can change the size of the ball. So let's say if I change this to 100 pixels width and height, and save it and reload it, you can see one of the balls became a lot smaller. I'm going to move this back to 200. Third step is to create a ball and have it move in a certain direction. To do that, you need a JavaScript code, and I can show you. So the HTML, in order to create this, you need an HTML and a JavaScript, and you can see my HTML code is same as before, but it has a script code and it has a moveball1.js file, and I can go to that file here. And so this is the JavaScript, and I created variables of the velocity of the ball, position of the ball, the time is 1 millisecond, and the variable of ball1 came from the ball1 object from the HTML code that I just showed you before. And I created a function called myFunction. And the position of the ball, position x equals position x plus velocity. And the velocity is in number of pixels. So 3 means 3 pixels. And I set the interval. And so what this set interval function does is it runs my function every 1 millisecond in this case, because I set the time at 1, and time equals 1 means a 1 millisecond in JavaScript. So you can see I can show you how it moves again. So you can see the ball is moving 3 pixels every 1 millisecond to the positive direction because I added the velocity. However, you can see the ball is moving infinitely toward the right direction. You need a certain limit to have the ball move, change the direction and bounce back. And to do that, I can show you in the fourth step is to create a limit and have the ball change the direction. So you can see the green ball is moving back and forth, back and forth. It's because I created a limit, an invisible limit in a JavaScript. And I can show you. So the fourth step, HTML is still the same. So you can see the ball1 and it's still green and still round. In the JavaScript code, however, I created what's called a position x minimum and position x maximum, and I set that at 0 and 500. So you can see that the maximum x position is 500 and minimum x position is at 0. So you can see ball will not move past 500. And so, and time is still 1, and I and I created a function, a variable called reverse x, and it's right now it's set at true, but you can see from the logic below. I'll explain later. You will change the direction back and forth between true and false, true and false. And also lastly, the variable of ball1 is still same from the HTML code I created. Function and my function is still very similar. So you can see the position is position plus velocity x, and the velocity is still at pixel. However, you can see that when reverse x is true, it goes in a direction, positive direction. However, else the position adds a negative velocity, so it changes back. So the reverse x position, reverse x variable, it changes the meaning and in a logic function that I created below. So if position x is greater than the position if position x is greater than the position x max, which is 500, or if position x is equal, this is the equal sign, equal to position x minimum, which is 0, then reverse x equals not reverse x. So right now it says set at true, but it will change it to false. So you can see when it's true, the position will add the velocity 3 pixels over 1 millisecond every millisecond. However, if reverse x is false, then the position will subtract the velocity at 3 pixels every 1 millisecond. So you can see the ball is now moving back and forth in an x direction. The next step is to create the ball also move in a y direction so that it gives a two-dimensional movement. So you can see in fifth step, the ball is now moving in y direction as well as in x direction. And I can show you my HTML code, which is still the same. Ball 1 with a green ball with 50 pixels wide and 50 pixels height. And you can see in the JavaScript, I added a duplicate of each variables in a y direction. So I only had velocity x before, now it has velocity y. It only had position x before, now it has position y as well, which I made same as the position and velocity of x. And you can also see the position y minimum is 0 and position y maximum is 300. So it gives a rectangular invisible limit rather than a square limit. And time is still 1, so it's 1 millisecond. And you can see that I created a reverse y variable on top of the reverse x variable that I created in the previous step. And you can see that my function is still very similar to the previous step. However, it now has y directionality as well. So before it only had reverse x, so it will only reverse the x positions. However, now it has a reverse of y position. So you can see the position of y equals position y plus velocity y if reverse is true. If not, then position y is equal to position y minus velocity y. So it will move in a y directionality, which is 3 pixels every 1 millisecond, which is same as the velocity of x. And you can also see that before I only had a reverse x logic, where reverse x becomes not reverse x when position is larger than the max position and position x is equal to position x minimum. However, now it has a y reverse logic as well in y directionality. So position y is bigger than position y max, or position y is same as position y minimum, which is 0. So the max was at 300 pixels. Then in a reverse y variable, which is currently true, will become not reverse y, which will be false. So you can see it's still the same logic as the x, but it now carries the y directionality. And the set interval function is still the same. So it will carry out my function every 1 millisecond, which is set up here. So you can see that the ball is now moving in 2 dimensions, and has 2-dimensional limits. The last step, sixth step, is to create a bunch of balls move in different speed and has different shapes, and that is still very similar to this code. Let me show you. So let me show you here. So the ball is moving in all directions and different shapes, different colors. You can see the HTML code is pretty still simple. So ball 1 is the same as the all previous steps. And now it just has a duplicate of the same code, ball 2 and ball 3. And ball 2 has a 70 pixels, which is bigger than the ball 1, which had only 50 pixels. And the color is red instead of green. And there's ball 3, which is 90 pixels wide and has a blue color. The JavaScript code looks very similar to the previous, but they're only multiplied by 3. So you can see I only had before velocity of x. Now it has velocity of x to velocity x3. So you can see the ball 1 is moving at 4 pixels per 1 millisecond. Ball 2 is moving at 3, so it's moving a little slower in terms of pixels per millisecond. And ball 3 is moving at 2 pixels per millisecond. Also, it has y velocity, and for each ball, it's 4 pixels for ball 1, 3 pixels for ball 2, 2 pixels for ball 3. And the position of the balls are all defined here. Position x, position x2, second ball, position x3, and the position y, y2, y3, and these are all set to 0. So the starting point is all the starting point for all the balls are at 0, 0 of y and x and y axis. And the position x minimum, position x maximum, position y minimum, position y maximum are still the same from the previous steps. Time is still at 1 millisecond. And you can see I created the reverse variables for both x and y for ball 1, ball 2, and ball 3. And now I am bringing it in ball 1, ball 2, and ball 3 from the HTML code. And you can see that my function is still the same, my function from the previous step. Now I have my function 2 and my function 3 using the variables for ball 2 and ball 3. And you can see I set the interval to carry out my function 2 and my function 3 every 1 millisecond, which is defined up here, time equals 1 millisecond. So you can see now the ball is moving in different speeds, and they have different shapes and different colors. So thanks for listening, and I will create more videos like this later. Yeah, thank you for listening.